Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly. With me today is Joel Alfonso Vargas and Destiny Checo. They are the filmmakers and the co-leads for the film Mad Bills to Pay, respectively. Welcome. How are you both?
Very good.
I'm good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me. I have had the privilege of seeing the film actually before its premiere in a couple of days.
Oh my
and I have to say there is lots to talk about, lots to unpack. Before we get to the film itself and your role in making it come to life, I want to talk about you both as individuals first. So starting with you, Joel, tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about who you are, filmmaker aside, a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. Good question. I was born in the Bronx. Well, I was born in Allen Pavilion, which is like, it's Inwood, which is kind of, it's
Same.
it's basically, yeah, we're born in the same hospital. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But it's like, it's just before this bridge in Manhattan that gets you to the Bronx. So I was raised in the Bronx, but you could technically be born in Manhattan.
Right.
But very Dominican part of New York City. I grew up in public housing. My mom still lives there. And yeah, as a kid, I was just always drawn to like photography and filmmaking and mostly as a hobby first, but then eventually as like, I had like career ambitions. It's a long journey, but we can, I don't want to
Yeah,
bore
we'll
you
get
too much
into
with
that
the
journey.
details.
No,
Yeah.
we'll get into that journey, but I like that little teaser. Okay, so born and raised in the Bronx area, you mentioned there was a lot of Dominican influence, and we actually see that in the film. Do you personally have Dominican roots as well?
Yeah, I'm Dominican. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So like, Dominican American family, first generation. Like my family were amongst like the first, at least my mom's side, were amongst the first like Dominicans to get to New York off the back of like a revolution that we were having in the 60s. Like when they like toppled our dictator. So she arrived when she was 2 years old. She was like basically raised in New York. But she's, obviously growing up with my grandparents, she was fluent in Spanish, and then she always wanted us, like her children, to be fluent as well. So she only spoke Spanish at home. So that's how we kind of, and I hope to do that with my kids as well. Like just to keep the because I feel like that's how the culture survives. Otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Destiny?
My story is similar to Joel's. I also grew up in public housing. We were born in the same hospital, but I was raised in Harlem, and like kind of like the Washington Heights area. My family's also Dominican, both my mom and my dad. And I kind of got into like acting, or I guess like entertainment in general, when I was about, I think, Mommy, if you're watching this, please correct me, but I think I was like 5 or 6 when I started doing ballet. I did that for like 10 years. And, my mom, she spent a good coin, trying to get me into like, get my stuff, like my unitards and stuff, my tutus. And then I went into like playing the clarinet. So I also played the clarinet. And then I did choir. And I ended up having a like theater program at my school. I live like in a very low income neighborhood, kind of like Joel. So anything that was free, like I was always in there. So I had a pretty busy schedule as a kid. I remember we had like an event, and I did everything in the event. Like I was doing the ballet, the choir, I did the clarinet, and then I did the theater. And my mom was like, I didn't even know you were in all of this. Like, what is happening? So she was just there like, I wanted to leave. And then I saw you come out again on the stage. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, during the pandemic, I kind of like lost myself a little bit. But during the pandemic, when I saw like everything shutting down, and I'm like, life is so short. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, the one thing that always stuck for me was acting. I loved acting. I loved theater. So I was like, let me kind of get into that. And I knew nothing, like literally close to nothing. So all I was posting was like little acting TikToks, like back in the day. Like people thought it was like cringe, but I didn't care. I was like, okay, whatever. Like I'm just gonna do my little TikToks, and that's kind of how Joel found me. Also, like on Backstage with literally just my TikToks on there. But yeah, that's kind of.
I love that. So at what point did you both, obviously separately on your paths, realize that storytelling for you and performance was something beyond just a hobby? You mentioned picking up cameras at a young age. At what point did you feel like you took it a little bit more seriously to go above and beyond and turn it into a profession?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started around high school because I was exposed I went to like an alternative school for high school. Because I was like my freshman and sophomore year, I was kind of like not doing so well at like a traditional school. And at this alternative school, which is the Urban Academy, it's not very far from here, they had a great arts program. And like they were just, the way they structured everything was kind of like very much like a college style, where you would get like a course catalog and you could choose. And I would always choose the film classes. So I ended up being in one class, I think it was like American cinema of like the 1970s, and we watched like Taxi Driver, like all the classics, like The Graduate. That one really stood out to me. And for me, that was when I was just like, oh, interesting. This is like something, I really respond to this art form, and it's really an art form, you know, with like a lot of craft and a lot of like, you know, great storytelling. But so anyway, I kept that in mind going to college eventually for engineering.
Wow.
So I went to college for engineering initially, and the first like year and a half that I was doing that, I was like so miserable. Like honestly, I was just like, because I was just in my dorm room, just like in the books, like day in, day out. And I was just like, I have no life. I hate this. And I was in one film class that I just like loved. Like it was just like, you know, the thing I looked forward to the most in my week. And I just, at one point, like a year and a half into that, I was like, you know what, this is not for me. Like, I think this is calling me. So this is what I got to do. And
why do you think you pursued engineering to begin with? Was that external pressure? Was that internal pressure?
It was a bit of both. Like, I think I have a very like mathematical mind, like which actually translates well to filmmaking and screenwriting and things, because like that is in a way like you're dealing with structures and stuff. But it was a lot of like family expectation as well. And I have a grandfather who's a mechanic, so, you know, he was always like, yeah, you know, like, you know, I'd see him kind of like fix car engines. So I was like, oh, yeah, I want to do that with like airplanes and things. So I wanted to go into like aeronautical engineering, but it just wasn't for me in the end.
Okay, so you made the switch after engineering to filmmaking, and here we are now.
Yeah.
What about you, Destiny? You said you lost yourself a little bit. Do you want to talk a bit about that before we get into pursuing acting?
Yeah, I guess I'll share. It's not, I'm fine talking about it. So, but when I went into high school, I think like my freshman year, I fell into like a really deep depression. So, you know, throughout my, you know, high school years, I was just kind of lost. I feel like in a sense, like I feel like I lost my sense of self. I feel like I also lost my passions. You know, like I was always a straight A student. I loved going to school, and then like out of nowhere, I just hit like this, I don't know, like this pit. I feel like, so yeah, I just, you know, I ended up dropping out of school, like high school when I was 18, and then I like put myself back in like 2020, right before the pandemic, and then I had to do like the virtual classes. I'm like, I'm not doing this. But like the school that I was going to, my counselor, God bless her, I literally owe her so much. She helped me a lot. So, you know, she was like, we're gonna get you out of here. Just please, I'm gonna talk to your teachers, and we're gonna try to get you like extra credit and whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And she literally would come, like my school was in Dobbs Ferry. Like I also went kind of to like an alternative school, because like schools in the city just wasn't working out for me. And then like also with like my depression, it was, you know, that school was based around like kids with mental illness. So she would come all the way from Dobbs Ferry to bring me my like classes and like to bring me my homework and stuff. She's like, I'm gonna come pick this up, make sure it's done. And I'm like, oh my Lanta. And then one day she came with my graduation gown, and I was like, you're lying. She was like, no, like you're graduating, like that's it. And I graduated at 21.
Wow.
With my high school diploma, no GED, no shade, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I did kind of lose myself. I ended up being like a nail tech for a few years, and I felt so empty with everything that I was doing. And especially like after the pandemic, I'm like I have to do something. So I kind of started like looking back at my life, and I was like, I used to do so many things. Which one of these things was it that really stuck with me in my heart. And acting, I love like watching TV shows, but like I was like the type of person that I would watch TV shows and movies, and I would like watch other people's like acting skills and like kind of like take from that, like, oh, like this person, they're a good actor, I like the way that they did this and this, and like, kind of take some pointers. Like that's how I taught myself how to act, because I didn't go to school, so I'm like, yeah, right self-taught. So I'm like, I would just watch like a lot of Zendaya. Denzel Washington is my favorite. I watch a lot of his films also. Anne Hathaway, one of my favorites as well. So after that, I'm like, yeah, acting is just like, that's what it is for me. And then I got a little discouraged, like, because I didn't know anything. I didn't have anything. And then Joel found me, and I'm like, oh, I guess I can't do this. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
It takes a lot to be vulnerable. And I think one of the reasons why it's so important to truly talk about every aspect of the journey is because it's very easy for outsiders to say, oh, you're an overnight success, or you just picked up your phone. For example, you mentioned TikToks, right? You just picked up your phone and you skipped over all these steps and all the training and whatever. And the reality is, everyone's path is different, but that doesn't take away the merit or the hard work behind it in their own way.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
I would love to get into how you two cross paths, and then also how you take your lived experiences, your Dominican roots, and channel it into your craft. I don't know if Joel, you want to start first?
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting journey because, like I was saying, I went to college, like not in New York City. I went to college in like Easton, Pennsylvania, which is a very homogenous place. There's like a lot of like white people, kind of like it's kind of that, very different from New York. That is very multicultural, very diverse. So for a while, like that became my world, like those 4 years. And at the same time, I was studying abroad a lot. I went to London for the very first time on a basically like an exchange program, and then I went to Prague. And in Prague is where I first started like to be hands-on with filmmaking, like take up a camera. Like we were shooting on 16 millimeter and things. And all that time I'm kind of exploring this craft like through the vehicle of like genre and like very kind of like surface level stuff, I was just so excited about like touching a camera and like editing and like all like the technical stuff. But then when I started thinking about like what kind of storyteller do I want to be, what are the kind of stories I want to tell, of course like it was just coming back home and coming back to like and it became obvious to me because the canon that I was being exposed to, all the films that I was watching, they didn't represent, like they weren't about people like us, so there was just like there was just I just felt like I could be of service to bringing some of these stories to light, and again, like as you know, as a Latina, like our community is just like full of stories, and the bochinche is like real, like, like it's just like, so growing up in those spaces, like barbershops, like going to barbershop salons with my mom and things, and then my mom loves, she'd pick up the phone, like you overhear her conversations talking about this and that, and like all these things kind of like
obviously we're like
yeah. But like you're like tuning
fill me in.
You're like tuning your ear to that stuff, it's from like a very early age, and like these stories kind of stay with you, so anyway, like there's so much that I want to do. Like obviously it begins with Mad Bills, but there's so much, but it's just like all kind of an extension of like that just background and that like exposure, and so yeah.
Like I said, he found me on Backstage, and in the beginning I just my goal originally, like going into acting, I really am so fond of like romance movies and anything that has to do with like romance, drama, so when I originally didn't really know what the film was about when they reached out to me, and I like little disclaimer, I wasn't gonna answer them like on Backstage. I'm like, I feel like this is a scam. Like there's no way these people wanna, kind of like like have me audition for this, and all I have is TikToks on here. Like I really thought it was fake. And then like a couple days later, I'm like, okay, like something in my spirit was just like answer them. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna answer. And I answered the producer Paulo, and I was kind of like, you know, like, are you guys still interested in me? You know, he's like, yeah. Like they sent me like a page of the script, and they were like, oh, like send us a self-tape. I was like, okay, I'm working right now, but like I get out at like 8 p.m. Can I send it tonight? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. So I sent it literally at like 11:30 at night. And by like almost 12, they were like, can you come in for a chemistry read? And like when I read the script, I'm like, did they change her name? Because her name is Destiny, just like me. So I'm like, did he do that when they found me? Like, what is this? But then when I finally spoke to, right, I was like, okay, like, y'all really want me, I see. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Oh my gosh, my name is Destiny. And then when I met them, you know, he kind of like filled me in. He's like, no, like I already had the name Rico and Destiny, and you know, you were just like the perfect fit. And when I went in for the chemistry, it was the first time that I met the whole cast. And that same night, I got the part, and they were like, oh, we want to offer you the part of Destiny. I was like, I was literally in Raising Cane's, like in the middle of eating a chicken tender when I got like the text from Paulo, and I was like, there is no way. And like I remember telling my mom, she's like, well, just, you know, go ahead and do what you got to do. At first, she was a little skeptical. She's like, who are these people that want you to go for a chemistry read in like Midtown Manhattan? So late at night after work, like
she was like, I'm coming with my brother. He's a cop. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
But then my brother couldn't go. Right, and I was like, I texted my brother. He's like, I'm actually on duty. I can't come. And I was like, okay. So I just texted my cousin. I'm like, can you come with me? And I just pretended like he was my brother. And I remember Joel was like, you know, when I first met him, I kind of knew he wasn't a cop. Like, he didn't give that vibe.
Yeah. We were just like, that guy.
I was like, whatever. I came with protection just in case. Because my mom was kind of scaring me. You know, Dominicans, they're like, ten cuidado.
All Latinos.
You know what I'm saying?
In Colombia, we say no dar papaya, which is basically like be cautious. Don't open the door to the possibility of something bad happening. So I understand. It's the same notion.
Yeah, my mom was like, mira, ten cuidado. Ay, yo no sé, eso como que está raro. And I'm like, Mommy, don't scare me. Like, I don't want to, you know. But I'm glad that I like listened to my instincts. And I was like, you know, I'm going to go and, you know, see what this is about. Because like also being an actor is not knowing much. I'm like, okay, let me at least see what I should look out for. Like, because I have no idea. But
and this is your debut film, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, she killed it. Like, it was just, like.
Let's talk about the film now, more officially. How would you all describe, for those who will get the chance, you know, locally to watch it in a couple of days, what can they look forward to? Because an interesting part about it is as well, in English it's Mad Bills to Pay, but the Spanish title is Destiny, dile que no soy malo, which translates to Destiny, tell them I'm not bad. So tell me a little bit more about the story.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that title.
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, what I had in mind with that title, the Spanish title, is just like, it's something that, it's like a letter that Rico's maybe written to either Destiny or the child that they're having. And it's just like, you know, it's an expression to tell the child that he's not bad, whether for his absence or something that he's done, you know, so that's the idea.
Oh, that's so interesting.
powerful.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
that is so interesting. Wow, I like
the
that.
idea.
I didn't even know that.
And like if you see in like the design in the film, the text, the title design, like, you know, that's always like handwritten.
It's like a handwritten.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's like he's signing a letter, you know.
Girl, we finding out together because I didn't know that.
Because we don't know what his fate will be, right? Yeah. And he is a character that self-sabotages and so on. But that's the genesis of that.
So it's basically centered around a Dominican family. Rico is basically a street hustler. He's 19 years old, so kind of still a teenager, but also entering into like adulthood. And, you know, he gets his girlfriend pregnant, which is me. And then you kind of see this family navigate, you know, this situation that, you know, me and Rico have gotten ourselves into. And I feel like Joel does a very great job at like showing how not only does something like that, you know, affect the mom and the dad, like the baby daddy and the baby mom, but like also everybody involved. So, you know, when you watch it, you know, you get like a fly on the wall type of like feel to it. Like everybody always says, like, I forget I'm watching a movie. Like I really thought I was watching somebody's life unfold before my eyes. And then I have to remember like, oh snap, like I'm in the movie theater watching a movie. So we get like a lot of that. There's a lot of drama between me and Rico.
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama. And then you kind of see them grow up, you know what I mean? And you root for them a lot, you know, like Rico's a bit like, how can I like explain Rico? He tries his best, you know what I mean?
Well.
He means well, but he's a bit like unrealistic. And then Destiny's like, you know, she wants to trust him and she's like, okay, I'm gonna follow your lead. But then she kind of sees that like, okay, you're not being realistic. And then it feels like she has to grow up before he does, even though she's a little younger. I feel like I don't want to spoil, but like, she's a little younger than him. So you kind of see her grow up more than he is. And then, but yeah,
I love how you described that, because to me, like one of the biggest themes was how consequences of decisions made kind of force you to grow up even more. And so you see that transition and like that evolution throughout the story. Another thing that you all mentioned was not only how these types of decisions impact the two direct individuals, but those around them. And you see how the family at first is, you know, there's one side of the family, which I won't give away, who's like, adios, baby, good luck.
Right.
You know, we're kind of shaming you. And the other one is like, okay, we're not the biggest fans necessarily, but we're going to be here to support you. And as the film goes on, you know, those around the couple are even more excited because they're not as in it, you know, in terms of like what's going on between the dynamic. I wanted to ask you, Joel, what story did you want to tell at the core? Like, what were the key themes that you want to make sure that people going into it, and also especially after they see it, lead with?
Yeah, I mean, the story I wanted to tell was really, it's a story of a lot of people, actually, that I grew up around. You know, young men who self-sabotaged, kind of like within my friend group, people that, I have an older brother who's 10 years older, his friends, you know, people that I kind of grew up around who were like big influences on me. My mom was a teen mom. I have a paternal brother who was a teen dad. He was a dad at 17. And he was very much like Rico. So it's just kind of that sort of like tornado kind of guy, you know, that we all know was kind of who I had in mind when I was thinking about this character. And, you know, in thinking about that character, I was thinking about like, what are the things, or what about life leads one to be that way, you know, especially as a young man. And inevitably it was fatherhood and masculinity, and kind of like what occurs when there is an absence of a father in the household. And, you know I struggled a lot with understanding kind of like the roles and responsibilities of what a man, it would be. And a lot of my friends who grew up the same way also did. You'd get it from, I don't know, like you'd watch something on TV, you watch MTV or whatever it is, and you'd be like, oh, that's how, or you see kind of like a rapper or whatever, oh, that's what it means to be a man. But like you don't really know what it truly means to be a man unless like you really have that example and role model, in your vicinity. And many of us grew up without that. Our moms, like my mom especially, she was a mother and a father to me. But
Same.
A father's still a father, and for a man, like you do need that, and for women as well, like you do need, but no shade on single moms, because like they still make it happen. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned as well, kind of the impact of lacking a father figure, because we also see that throughout the film. Rico, he says, he's like, I am not going to be like my father. I want to be there for my child.
Yes.
And you see how external pressure, as well as the pressure that he puts on himself because of that precedent, is one of the reasons why he pulls himself kind of in so many directions, and he relapses, you know, and he self-sabotages, as you mentioned. I love that there is a lot of personal influence in this story. You know, this is your breakout role, as we mentioned. What about your life experiences or those around you influenced how you portrayed the character of Destiny?
I always mention that I kind of channeled my mom a lot when I was playing Destiny, because my mom was also a teenage mother. She was just 1 year older than Destiny in the film, because Destiny's 16 in the film. My mom was 17 when she got pregnant with me. So I really channeled her. Like, I remember coming home, asking her so many questions. You know, I'm like she would ask me, like, what is this film about? And I'm like, well, it's about X, Y, and Z. She's like, oh, so like what I went through with your dad. And I'm like, yeah, help me, please. Like, so cool. Like I would ask her, and I would come home, and I really, I say this all the time, like I have a newfound respect for my mom, like after playing Destiny, because I'm like, wow, like even though like I was just playing a character, I kind of got to see a glimpse of what she went through. And I'm like, I commend you for that. You know, like I always saw my mom as a mother and a father, but I'm like, it kind of made me look at it from a different lens. You know, like she was a mother and a father, but like, how did that come about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I never really like thought about that, like what she might have went through with my father. And, you know, no shade to my dad. I love you, Dad. I know you're watching. You know, my dad, he's great. And you know, we've had our ups and downs, but my dad is great. Love you, Dad. But you know, that's the story that, you know, you grow up around. And I like how you mentioned that, you know, the absence of a father for a boy. I feel like you kind of see that with Destiny also, because she never mentions a dad. She just mentions like her brother, her mom, and her grandma. She never mentions a dad. So it kind of also shows you like how she maybe got into that situation, like lack of love from a father. You know what I mean? Right. So, and like, that's probably what she was raised around also. And then you see that, you know what I mean? Like, you're either a product of your environment in a bad way or a good way.
And saying that, like, there are, you know, like, obviously this is one representation of, you know, a family dynamic and family, like, but obviously there are functional kind of like complete households, like in our communities and stuff. And these are stories that obviously are being told and should be told as well. But, you know, and but this is like how we grew up, right? Like, and you know, not just us, it's like Juan Collado, who plays Rico, like, you know, also like grew up very similarly. You know, it's and it's funny that even the producer, like, you know, like it's just like a lot of like, it's funny how we just all kind of intersected or connected around this project. This is beautiful.
You were involved in the casting, in the editing, and also the cinematography. So talk about what it's like to juggle all three hats, number one. Also, why it was so important for you to be as involved as you were. And lastly, what you were looking in the casting. What were you looking for? Yeah.
So the short answer to the first part of that question, the short answer to the first part of that question is like lack of money. So we just like resources. So we just didn't have like the runway to kind of pay people for their time to kind of go out. And so like I would have to pick up some of the slack sometimes. But all of these were like collaborations with like, you know, we had heads of department. Like we have a head editor, we have a head DP. So I was just there mainly to like support them, and we ended up shooting some pickups a year later with Juan, and it was like a day or two of pickups, and I just went like with a camera, like a DSLR camera like this, and you know we shot those pickups, and I did that myself. And then with the editing, it was a bit of like, you know, I would like Irfan, the editor, would work on a cut. He'd hand it over to me. You know, we're just like ping ponging it back and forth. But for me, like, just because the film is how it is, it's, I mean, like, without giving away too much, it's kind of, you know, it's shot in kind of single take, like long take. You know, it's a kind of form that you're not really, when you edit it, you're not editing for continuity, and you're not editing for like, I don't know, like rhythm and speed so much, because everything is kind of like contained within the shot. But like there's sort of like a feeling, like you have to kind of I don't know how else to describe it, but like you feel like it's such an instinctual process, you know, like that is almost like signature to like my voice. So I feel like I need to have like that touch on it. So a lot of the things that I've put out in the world, like I have like either co-edited or edited because I feel like it needs it. And the other part of that question was the casting. So we, it was a really involved process, and I was really rigorous about looking everywhere and anywhere, you know, leaving no stone unturned. So like initially we started with like a street casting approach where we were like trying to just go up to the like people that we met, that we'd meet like on parks and beaches, and to be like, hey, like, you know, and we saw a few people that way. We got some tapes. We tested some pairings. In the end, it didn't really work out. So when that kind of was proving to be unsuccessful a little bit, we decided on like a more multifaceted kind of approach. And so in the end, we did find Juan through Backstage, and you know, he had some acting experience. Joanna was someone in my orbit. Joanna was actually the first person we cast, you know, so like everything almost stems from her, but she's a trained actress. She, you know, she does theater and all this stuff, and but it became kind of then like a mission to like not just find actors that were like as talented as she was, but like also looked like her, you know. So it was just like that kind of. But I think we sort of nailed it, you know. Like Natalie almost.
I agree.
Yeah. They're like they can pass like by like mother and daughter.
Yeah, but we literally looked everywhere, you know. Natalie came via an agent, and then you know, almost like the last person we cast, which Juan was really the last person we cast, but we actually met Juan before we met Destiny. But we had him, long story, but he was kind of like our understudy, because we were thinking about working with this non-actor who we approached on the street, but at the very last minute he decided he didn't want to be involved, because he just had a baby, and we were interested in working with him because of that, like, you know, the closeness of that. So we ended up calling Juan like maybe like 48 hours, 72 hours before. But Destiny, we found, as she said, like via her TikTok reels on Backstage, and she didn't have anything. She just had like TikToks and like a phone number, and like the TikTok reels were just amazing. Like there was like an Eternal Sunshine one that you were like lip syncing to, and it just like, and this was like lip synced. It wasn't like, you know, but just the emotion that she could like communicate through just her like her body language and, you know, just her face. I look back at
those videos now and I'm like, how did this get me mad bills?
yeah, but I was like, this is great, you know. And you know, you never know until you see everyone together, but the minute they all came together, it was like the energy was electric, like the banter, how they were just kind of like, it was like jazz. Like, honestly, I'm a big fan of like music, and you know, New York City, like like hip hop, like it was like they were just kind of riffing off of each other, and just, you know, all the specificity that, you know, I wished for these characters, like they immediately brought to it, because they're also like, you know, although they're not playing, or they're not the characters, they've lived adjacent to those stories, you know. So like there's a certain kind of like authenticity that like they could bring instantly to those portrayals, and I was so excited to see that. Like like I wish you could have seen me like after we left that with Paolo says that I was like Paolo's a producer, but he says that I was like really like quiet, you know, like, because I just went quiet. I just like, and then like I just like burst, and like it was just like, yeah, we found them, you know, like so I was like processing it all, you know. But I was like,
I remember the chemistry read, and I'm like, are we doing good? Because Paolo was kind of the one that was like, you know, recording and kind of like laughing and stuff, and you were just there like.
Yeah, just like analyzing.
But I feel like that was maybe you, like, okay, we're doing this, but I see them in these other scenes. Like these are my people. So it's interesting that you say that, because I was like, what is he thinking?
Well, let's talk about the chemistry. You know, as considering that this was your first role, right? What was that process like? Going into the room for the first time, meeting who would be your potential castmates, and then also when it came to actually portraying Destiny, how much was purely based on the script versus how much was improvised?
When I went in initially for the chemistry read, I was poop in my pants. I was just looking around like, and they looked like, you know, they went to
You should have been
school,
scrubs too. Like.
I did. I was at work. I was at work before I got there, and I was literally in scrubs, and I'm looking at everybody. I think Juan was in a tank top, and I'm like, okay, I don't look that bad. You know what I'm saying? He's in a tank top. No shade, Juan, no shade. But I was like, okay, like, I don't look that bad. But I was so nervous. And it was the scene that we did at the chemistry read was the dinner scene. So I feel like it was so perfect. I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I'm feeling anyways, meeting everybody. So I'm just like, you know, I'm just quiet and nervous and whatever. And then when it came down to filming, Joel made me feel so comfortable. I remember the first scene that we did was the one on Fordham, where Rico's kind of like shouting and yelling like, oh, I'm going to be a father. And I remember asking Juan, and he talks about this all the time. Like, I'm like, you're not nervous? He's like, no, girl, I do this. I'm like, right. Right. And I'm just there like, you know, in my dress, and I'm just like kind of nervous. And Joel's like, are you okay? Like literally every single scene that we did, like Joel always, because he knew it was my first you know, acting gig, so he always checked in with me, always, and I really appreciate you for that. And he really gave us a lot of I guess freedom in that sense. Like we did have a script initially, and we knew like the scenes we were gonna do, things that he wanted us to say, but he's like, he kind of just let us pour into the characters. He's like, you guys know these characters, you guys are around these characters, so just like, you know, bring that to life, you know. Like, so again, like I channeled my mom. I'm sure Juan channeled people that he knows, and because he also grew up like in Washington Heights and stuff, and
Bushwick.
Oh, Bushwick. Oh, well, he lives in Washington Heights now, my bad. But he grew up in Bushwick, my bad. So yeah, we really channeled like, you know, people that we knew, and he gave us a lot of I would say freedom. Like I think a lot of our scenes were like maybe like one or two takes, maybe 3, but like it was only because he's like, okay, like, you know, say this, like this was in the script, and I want you guys to really implement that like in there. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then, but then like the rest of it would be like improv, and if he wanted us to add anything, we would tweak it and things like that. But he's a great director also. He made us feel very, very comfortable. Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted you guys, like that was the whole point. Like I didn't want to be like very, like it was never meant to be like a top down kind of approach. Like it was always meant for you guys to like take license and ownership over those characters, and just like I was most of the time, like, you know, as you saw, like I was just very much behind the scenes. I like hardly intervene. Like I never, you know, on rare occasion maybe I would, but like I didn't, you know, I would rarely tell people like what to say or where to stand, you know. What I was very rigorous about was like, you know, the camera placement, the image, you know, making sure that was like you know, tip-top shape, because we only had that one take, right?
Let's talk about the balance of giving creative freedom, right, and liberty versus being firm on certain things. And I ask that because as you were talking about your involvement, you know, you are very hands-on in certain things, but you also know when to take a step back. Does that come from experience? I mean, I'm sure that does come from experience, actually, but what is that balance for you? How did you know when to do more versus when to do less?
I mean, well, it begins with the rigor in the casting, you know, and just finding, and, you know, also with the crewing, you know, like casting your crew like you would your cast, basically. So, like, you know, the interview process is, like, crucial, and you really are looking for people that you could just, like, trust wholeheartedly. And, like, you know, when your back is against the wall, which in our case was often, because, you know, we shot the film in 16 days, 100 scenes, you know, so it was just like in New York City, you know, semi-permitted, you know, so we were kind of like ducking and diving and like, you know, like doing all sorts to kind of get our shots in. You know, you need to be with people or surrounded by people who you could really trust. So that became key. So when, you know, we were in those tough spots, I knew that we pulled through, or we would pull through. It was that helped kind of like with the balance of allowing me to just kind of like focus on certain things and knowing that other things would be taken. Like I wasn't concerned honestly at all about the acting. I was like, these people are great. They're gonna kill it. And, you know, there were other kind of fires to put out. And again, like it's a small production, so you're wearing many hats. So you also like across multiple things. But it is a dance, like it was in terms of finding, you're trying to balance the realities of like a micro budget film, and needing to make your day with like needing to get quality content, quality material to kind of bring to the editor. So it's just like, that was always, so like despite me wanting to go like 20 or 30 takes on something, we never did that because we just couldn't afford to. So it was like, we got 5 takes, and we gotta find a way to make this work. So like a lot of shorthand, like we would always like my whole thing was like we had very little rehearsal time. So like, it was almost like before every scene was like a football kind of like, all right guys, this is what we're gonna do, like this is
like a little huddle, like, okay, this is the scene, this is what you gotta do, let's go. And I'm like,
all within like 2 minutes, yeah. And there's like, all right guys, go.
That's literally
talk about a little bit of the timeline, because you mentioned 100 scenes in 16 days, very little rehearsal time from start to finish. High level, walk us through what it took to put this film together.
High level, so in terms of what, like finances and things?
So for example, at what point was the story written? Shortly after then, what was next? Your cast or your crew, and then your cast?
So without going into too much detail about this, but the film had its genesis or began through an affiliation with a film school. So we had a lot of like institutional backing in that sense. Of course, we had to produce this. Basically, we're getting some funding from that institution. So we had to, in order to do so, we had to produce a script in kind of traditional screenplay format. So this is why like what exists of the script is probably like the first like 30 or 40 pages or so, like taking you through to the midpoint. And that was written in that traditional format for that purpose. I don't typically work in that way. I usually work with like a story outline or beat sheets, with the expectation that, with the cast, I will then be able to like shade it in, and, we'd find the dialogue and stuff like this. Like it's a process very much inspired by like John Cassavetes, if you know who he is, and these sort of pioneers of like independent filmmaking who've really pioneered like working with improvisation and stuff like that. That's so from there we had to pitch to get our green light. And we were still missing a bit of funding, so I had some sort of personal savings. I kind of put together with like a business loan and like some grant money that was left over for other projects and stuff like that. And so it was like really self-funded. It was very like entrepreneurial. Like the budget is really, really tiny. We had some people come in like after the fact, around the time that we got into Sundance, because we had a lot of music that was incidental and kind of difficult to clear and is expensive, so we needed sort of some support there. But obviously between all that, it was the crewing, the casting, like it's all like the typical stages, crew first, then cast, then locations, all that.
So how long would you say it took from the start to finish?
That timeline, it was like express, because we had this very short window of time where we could still get the backing of the school. We could use their facilities and some of their equipment. So that was about like 6 months, like it all, like from like script to screen, it was like 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That truly is expressed.
Yeah.
And I ask because, like I said, for those who are not familiar with the work that you guys do, there is zero concept of how long a project like this takes in the way that it was made. Another thing that I would love to talk about is New York as a character. I feel like the city, yes, it's in which, the story is set, but I think there's a much bigger role that it plays, honestly, in the story from start to finish. So, Destiny, talk about, having grown up in the Bronx, having grown up in this city, how important was it for you to really pull from those personal experiences and make sure that when people saw this, they'd be like, this can only really happen in New York.
Right. I grew up in Harlem a lot, but my family's from the Bronx.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, going to places that I would go to with my aunts and my cousins and stuff, like Fordham, like that's kind of like the Mecca, kind of like when you are like hanging out with your family back in the day, like early 2000s and stuff. So I'm like, I pulled a lot from that also, because I'm like, I want my family to be able to relate to the story, not just the characters, but also the setting. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I grew up. You know, it's not like a fake Hollywood, like a set, you know what I mean? Like, this is New York the way that we know it to be. And Joel really did a good job also, you know, including like the background, like, for example, the Fordham scene where the man, like he Rico yells and then the man comes out of the store, and like you left that in because he's like, this is what happens in New York, you know? So having New York be our set was so exciting. It was so different. And I felt like, you know, what better place to be like a set for me for my first film than my backyard, you know what I mean? Like where I grew up, where my family grew up, where, you know, down the block from where we filmed in Fordham, my aunt works there. So I'm like, you know, like these are places that maybe like I didn't necessarily, I would say, grow up there, but like I definitely visited a lot, you know, and I was there a lot like as a kid. So I'm like, even watching it on screen, I'm like, wow, like I can't believe how full circle this is, you know what I mean? Like I grew up here, or like, I don't like to say I grew up there because I didn't live in the Bronx. Like I was always kind of scared of the Bronx. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I live there now. But I was.
Not you too.
I was always that type of person. I don't know. Like people used to talk so bad about the Bronx. I was kind of scared.
Crazy. The Bronx is beautiful. Like I don't understand. Like,
it is. I see it now like that.
It's
I'm like,
so
yeah,
spacious. It's so green. It's so clean. Like
it's
just
beautiful.
Yeah.
I see that. I see the beauty now after being Destiny. But like before, I was just like, you know, visiting family here and there, and I would just go from one house to another. Like I was never really out unless it was like with my mom, going to Fordham, shopping, things like that, and then coming right back to Harlem. So it's like having it be my set and like seeing the beauty of it. I was like, wow, like now I get why my family lives here. You know, like me and my mom were like, and like my mom still lives in Harlem, but we're like the only ones that live in Harlem. Like everyone else is like kind of like, we have a few relatives in Washington Heights, but then the rest of them are like all in the Bronx, like scattered around. So I'm like, now I know why they're here, you know? And
which, you know, a lot of people have been like, from our communities have gotten kicked out of like Manhattan. So like it's just like that's like, before you like, I feel like before you leave the city entirely, like it's almost like the Bronx is like your last stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Talk about the intentionality behind the nuances that are so New York. You know, Orchard Beach, nutcrackers. Also, the beauty in the side of the Bronx that you wanted to show. You know, you reacted just now when you were like, "Not you too." So like, talk about that.
Yeah, you know, I grew up like in the northwestern part of the Bronx, Marble Hill, which is very like connected to like Inwood and Washington Heights and things. So to me, that like, it's just so beautiful there. Like we have like, you know, the Van Cortlandt Park, which is like, it's just so green. It's like, I think it's like the biggest park in New York City. It's like bigger than Prospect Park. It's bigger than Central Park. Like, my grandmother used to live up by Gun Hill Road. You know, there you have kind of like, what do you call, like the Woodlawn Gardens and the, you know, like it's just, you know, I've always thought of the Bronx as being like very beautiful, and I didn't really like clock it until I lived in other places in New York City, like in my 20s. Like there was a time when I did like a stint in Brooklyn for a little while, and like it was just like, I remember feeling just like so like cramped, and like, you know, everyone's on top of each other. I'm like, the Bronx is actually not that. Like the Bronx is, there are a lot of families too, you know, it's kind of less gentrified, so it has a character still intact that that I think is very special, and I think it's if you're looking for like that kind of authentic, kind of unadulterated like New York City, like that's probably like one of the last places you'll find it in. You know, and I'm so, I don't think I've ever seen like City Island in a movie before, you know. So
me neither.
Yeah, I'm surely someone has to have put it.
Maybe.
Yeah, but like I personally have never seen it, and I've watched a lot of films. So I'm just, I feel so like, it's like a point of pride. Like, you know, like we put City Island on screen, which is great. But I hope in doing so, now it doesn't become like an invitation for people to like move out to the Bronx and like, you know, gentrify it. So like, it's like.
That's fair. That's a double-edged sword. That's a fair thing to talk about. I also want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, which is conversations around masculinity and having to figure it out almost on your own, especially when it comes to our culture. What conversations do you hope this film sparks beyond just, wow, what a powerful film, but like, do you hope that it has some sort of domino effect in the household for those that may have experienced what's portrayed on the screen?
Yeah, I think, you know, I do want it to be like a conversation piece especially for young people watching the film. But there's a lot in it thematically that I think resonates with our communities right now, as far as, you know, there's a whole kind of, without going into too much detail, thing about vaccinations, for example. Like, you know, I want people to maybe talk about that. You know, there's, you know, themes of incarceration and, you know, like, obviously, single parent, like, you know, I want people to talk about, you know.
And substance abuse.
Yeah,
as
substance abuse, right. Because, yeah, you know, our protagonist kind of relies on, he kind of, you know, medicates with alcohol, you know, when he's.
And weed.
And, and other things. but you know, these things that, you know, details that are part of the movie, I would hope that people kind of dissect and talk
absolutely.
about. Yeah.
You mentioned, you know, when you were thinking about getting into acting, how you've always been drawn to love stories. And traditionally, when people think of rom-coms, right, or when they think of a love story, there's always a happy ending. But the love story that's showcased here, both familiar and within the context of a romantic relationship, you know, it is very raw, it's very real, it can be messy at times. Yeah. Why was it important for you to be part of showcasing another side of love? And how did you think about that when you were portraying Destiny?
It was very important for me because it's real. You know, like I always grew up with like the fairy tale Disney and, you know, what's that movie with, I forgot his name, but it's a bunch of movies, like the ones with J-Lo, things like that, Made in Manhattan, and like 10 Things I Hate About You. Like you see like, well, 10 Things I Hate About You is a bit more dramatic, but there's some that it's like you don't necessarily always get a happy ending. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like growing up, like once I got into the real world, I'm like, oh, so this is not the way it's, this is not the movies. Like, even when I went to high school, I thought high school was going to be like High School Musical, girl. And I'm like, why is nobody showing?
Why is nobody singing and dancing?
No, right? I'm like, oh, everybody's just fighting. Okay. Like, just, so I'm like, I feel like us bringing that to life and showing like the realness of like, this is the real world. You know what I mean? This is what, like, not just Dominicans, we actually spoke to some people a few days ago where they were saying how this is universal. You know, it's not just for Dominicans. Like, you see a lot of people go through things like this, whether it be like, you know, teen pregnancy or like, you know, situations in like relationships and things like that. Like, it's universal. Like, it's good to show the other side of it instead of just like, oh no, everything is sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah,
because
but it's also like, you know, I feel like with, especially as a filmmaker, like when it concerns like stories about our community, like I'm really like allergic to films that try to like tie it up and like there's like neatly structured like I don't want that. Like I feel like I want the film to be a little bit challenging and a little bit difficult because like
show the realness of it. Like don't be afraid to show the authenticity and be like, okay, like it's rough out here. You know what I'm saying?
You definitely leave the audience wanting more because you're like, okay, do they make it as a couple? You know, what is their family life like after the baby is born? You know, there's so many. The movie was over and I'm like, that's it. What do you like? I have so many questions. Which leads me to what is next? I know that it releases in a couple of days, April 17th to be exact, and it's limited release for now. So talk about what that means, Joel, and also how you hope the film grows. Like, are you hoping that it goes to streaming, maybe? That it's available nationwide, worldwide? What is that process?
Yeah. I mean, it's a slower rollout. So we have New York, LA slated at the moment. I think we were playing in Santa Barbara in California,
Nice.
all in May. There are plans to expand it to other places, like mostly the cities, kind of urban areas. And then from there, I think we're on pay-per-view. Like you can rent the film on Amazon or Apple TV, and that'll be 2 months after release, so around the June-ish time.
Yeah.
And then from there, try to like find the right home, like streaming home for it. So I guess
course.
that's what the distributor's doing at the moment. So that's life for it. And
That's exciting.
It's exciting.
Do you see a world in which there's a sequel, or do you think in order to fulfill the goal that you had, leaving it as is best? And I know that you all just poured your hearts and soul. I can't even imagine what it's like to think about doing this again.
I mean,
necessarily.
This has been such a long process. So the film took 6 months to make, right?
Yeah.
But this whole journey, like, we've been on for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, we're just coming out. We were at Sundance, obviously, January 2025. But it's been a journey. So like, kind of exhausted. I'm not gonna lie. Want a break.
Yeah.
I think we all need a little break.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a little sequel. I'm
gonna answer that. Yeah,
I would love to work with everybody again.
Yeah. But
Okay,
but a sequel. So my original idea for the title was Destiny's Child. And then that, for obvious reasons, wasn't possible. But I feel like now, given the success of this film, we can make Destiny's Child as a sequel. Focus it, like, in 20 years, focus it on the baby.
Oh. Okay.
The baby who's not going to the baby who's not going to college,
right?
Or who's in college. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I honestly don't know, but I would love to a sequel.
Love to work with everybody again. That was so fun, and
I'm sure we will work together again. I'm not sure if immediately, like, on a sequel, but we'll do.
Yeah,
we'll do
of
something.
Course.
Okay. And an inside scoop or exclusive, you talked about, the hopes of anything else, but is there something that you are either both working on together or separately that is unrelated to the film that you want people to keep an eye out for?
You
go. I did kind of mention this, like, off camera before we started, that I do want to, I want to venture out, maybe start a podcast or like a YouTube channel or something. I've been on this new journey with Christ, and I really want to just share that, in like how that is as an actress and how that is as someone who's from New York, and not only I'm first generation a lot of things, so being first generation on my mom's side as a Christ follower of Christ, I feel like that would be a great thing to talk about aside from acting, and then also implement acting in it. I'm also gonna start an acting program after the release.
Congratulations.
A huge one,
and just a bunch of things
we can't call her a non-actor anymore.
I'm gonna join the union soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I guess you were never a non-actor because you were acting since you were a kid.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a theater kid.
What about you?
I am working on a couple of things. So I live in London at the moment, because that's where.
Okay, plot twist.
That's a plot twist. But like, I actually went to film school in London, so like I stayed and but like there are many Colombians in London. Like there's a growing established Colombian community, but now there's like growing Dominican community and from other diasporas, and there's a story centered around. Basically the Latino community in London, which has gotten no love and not many people know about, but it exists. And there's a film that I'm exploring here set in Brooklyn that's kind of like it has to do with themes of like gentrification and things, and bed bugs. So
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Gentrification and bed bugs.
That's as much as I'm going to say about it.
We will have to stay tuned. To close out, I would love for you all to share one thing that we haven't already mentioned that people would be surprised to know about your respective roles. So something surprising or unexpected about being an actress, and then something about being a filmmaker that only someone behind the scenes would maybe understand.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
About being a director that only if you're behind the scenes, I don't know, it's stressful. I mean, is that obvious or not obvious? But like, it's just like,
Is it obvious?
It's just it's really a vocation, I guess, and it's not well paid at all. But you're doing it because you're passionate, you love it, and you're like, there's a lot of struggle, and I'm not gonna lie, like there's starving artists, like sometimes you are starving, like you gotta
I'm gonna second that.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, I'm sure as a director and also as an actress. I know that even Natalie says that she, sometimes like she'll book a major role and then like she'll have a couple months or a few months where she doesn't book anything. So it's kind of like, until you like really make it, you get to that, I guess, like B-lister, A-lister type of status, you're kind of just picking up little scraps, like whatever you can.
Yeah, supplementing, working a day job. Like, it's not glamorous at all, like until you, hopefully, if that's your goal, But,
right.
What would you say keeps you both going? What's your biggest motivator?
I would say my family. Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
For me, it's like, it's a responsibility, I feel. I feel like if we don't tell our stories, like, who will? Or, like, if they are told by people who are not us, like, it's usually mishandled. So I feel like we gotta, so it's a bit of that. And yeah, just like a real love for the art form,
That's so powerful. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. I can't wait for the public, to see this powerful story and to support both of your future works as well. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm so proud, truly, of the work you both alongside your team have put out there. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to sit down with you both. So best of luck.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for watching and listening. Until next time.